So this is the online ordering process for consumers today. We all probably do it way too often, and myself included. You go to your favorite website, you pick what you want to buy, you pay for it with a credit card, and then you can watch the ticker as it comes into your front door or gets dropped off on your porch. You go to your favorite website today, Amazon, for example, you decide, you order it, you pay for it, and you get it in about 2 to 5 days. It's very rare now that you accept anything longer than 2 or 3 days, right? So now when you get into a corporate environment, it gets very, very different. So now you have a lot more things you have to do. You have to make sure you get your requirements right. You got to make sure you do your research on your market. You got to make sure you do proper due diligence to see who can actually do this stuff. Then you have to get bids from them. Then you have to make sure IT can support it, that security agrees with it, that risk signs off on it, that you have the budget from finance. Then you have to go through an excruciating contract process with legal before you can finally put an order through. So if you're used to that previous process I showed you and get inside an organization, the process is going to look very much like this. It's a maze, it's very, very confusing, and people don't know how to do it, and they waste a lot of time making wrong turns through the maze, and it ends up taking a lot of time, costs a lot of money, and it introduces risks. So you ask yourself, why is it so difficult to buy stuff for organizations large and small? Well, it's because if you screw it up, the process failures are very, very costly and very, very public. For example, Walmart hired contractors to clean their facilities. Lo and behold, they didn't screen who those contractors were hiring in return. Ended up they're hiring illegal aliens, and Walmart got slapped with an $11 million fine. Another fun example is the Royal Navy bought engines for their destroyers from Rolls-Royce. Turns out those engines weren't actually built to go below the North Sea, so they were useless. They had to go back into dock, and they spent $45 billion on a destroyer that could only work in the North Sea, right? So that's why you don't want to make these mistakes. I'm Anders Lilovic. I have lived in procurement for 25 years. I worked as a chief procurement officer for very large organizations, and I've seen this problem firsthand. That's why we built Focal Point, to solve the problem, take the risk out of the equation, and help folks do this in an easier, more transparent way. So what Focal Point does in the first instance is map out the process from beginning to end, regardless of what you're buying. If it's complex, you're going to go through the whole maze. If it's not complex, you're going to get turn-by-turn directions either way to go from beginning to end and make sure everything gets done. Without the complexity, it becomes much, much easier, and there's much, much less noise to get things done. And because we use workflow and automation, the process becomes much simpler and much faster to take it from beginning to end. The other thing we do is users of the solution can see how things are progressing from beginning to end. They can see who's working on what, they can see the next step in the process, and they can see when things are supposed to get done. So they get full visibility and transparency how things are going. After the project's done, they can then do an analysis of the project in the past. They can see who touched the project, who collaborated, how long it took, how many days a project sat with somebody. So then you can do a full analysis to see where things broke down, and then you can actually do something to fix it. Because without visibility, there's not much to do. Our clients are reporting to us that they're saving 20% of resources working on projects, which is pretty big when you think about it. One of the procurement organizations I managed when I worked for Fannie Mae had 120 people in it. So 20% of 120 people, that's quite a bit of folks, right? And the other thing, too, is they're saving 40% plus on their reporting. So Focal Point is a very young company. We started last year, but we already earned the trust of 2 very large clients who are using the solution globally today. We also got pre-seed funding from RTP Seed right before Techstars. And right now, we are in a pilot and LOI stages to get to $300,000 in the next month or so. And by the end of the year, we're expecting to hit $400,000 over ARR. The procurement application market space is roughly $10 billion per year, and it's growing at 10% on average. We're going after about 2% of that market, and with our pricing, we're predicting we're going to get to $300 million of ARR, annual revenue, as our target market. We have a fantastic team. I'm very lucky to work with Max, who has worked in software development for 20 years, and he's our CTO. And Vanessa has also worked in procurement like I have, and she's helping us with customer success. In addition to that, we have a development team of 6 guys in the Ukraine who are developing our product, and we're making great traction towards getting a really good product out there. So please join me on the journey to make the procurement experience much better for people so they can be much more like it's used to for their home experience. Thank you.